Good afternoon. I'm back with the common mistakes in Mapwork. I'm always saying this to my students that when you are answering these questions, especially for academic purpose, you don't have to respond the way our Savior, that is Jesus Christ, used to respond to the people that were asking him questions. I remember at some point he was asked, "Who's your neighbor?" Instead of telling them who our neighbor is, he said that a man was coming from Jerusalem to Jericho, and on his way, he fell among the robbers. So at this point, I expect you that whenever you are asked, who is your neighbor, just say, my neighbor is John, my neighbor is Tim, my neighbor is Kathleen, my neighbor is Joylene, because you need to be as straight as possible. You don't need to set your own questions. You don't need to waste time explaining a lot of information. You need to be as precise as possible. Who is your neighbor? My neighbor is so and so. That's all you need. You don't need to say a man was coming from Jerusalem to Jericho. It's not relevant at this point. You don't have the authority to respond the way Jesus used to respond. Here, you're supposed to be as precise as possible. So these are some of the common mistakes that are made by students in as far as Mapwork is concerned. So the first one is choosing the right map. Remember, whenever you are doing Mapwork, you have got these two types of maps. You have got your topographical map and your orthophoto map. So you can have a question that asks you to do a calculation using an orthophoto map. You can have a question that asks you to do a calculation using a topographical map. The moment you do not choose the correct map, it means you are bound to write the wrong answers. So you are supposed to pay attention, be attentive to detail in as far as your questions are concerned. If the question is saying refer to the orthophoto map, or refer to the topographical map, make sure you use the right map. You have got the maps, the two maps at your disposal, that is your topographical map and your orthophoto map. So you're supposed to make sure that you are choosing the correct map. Why am I saying this? Let's say, for instance, you are asked to calculate the distance between two given points, and you're supposed to write your answer in meters. The moment you are going to use the topographical map, which means you are going to multiply by 500 meters. If you are going to use the orthophoto map, you're supposed to multiply by 100 meters. So if you choose the correct map, obviously you are going to write the correct answer. So you should not hurry when it comes to Mapwork. Make sure that you understand the requirements of the question so that you choose the right map. So that is the first thing. Make sure you choose the right map. So this is the common mistake that is done by learners by calculating using the wrong map. So make sure you choose the correct map. The only way you can be able to do that is by knowing what a topographical map is, and also what an orthophoto map is, also what are the key characteristics of a topographical map and also of an orthophoto map. This will help you to write the correct answer. So the first mistake that is made in as far as Mapwork is concerned is learners not choosing the right map. So you're supposed to choose the right map. Okay. Number two, the correct unit of measurement. This is another problem. The correct unit of measurement. Let's say, for instance, you have been asked to calculate the distance between two given features, and you have measured the map distance. You have got the map distance as 5 centimeters. Obviously, you have been asked to calculate the distance in meters. So it means we expect you that your distance is your map distance, which is 5 centimeters, multiplied by, remember, it's supposed to be in meters and it's a topographical map, which means I'm going to multiply by what? By 500 meters. If I multiply 500 meters by 5, what am I going to get? I'm going to get like 2.5, which is 2,500 watt meters. Make sure you use the correct units of measurement. This one is they are. Then you get your marks for that. If you can just write your answer as 2,500, then it's wrong. If you can just say 5 multiplied by 500, it's wrong as well. Because 500 watt, you have to include the meters, you have to include also the what? The centimeters. There, you're supposed to include also the what? 2,500 meters. So the unit of measurement is very correct. For some of you, you do the calculations, it's correct. But when it comes to the unit of measurement, then you can see that it's not correct. Make sure that you use the correct unit of measurement. That's another thing that you're supposed to take note of whenever you are doing Mapwork. That's a common mistake, the correct unit of measurement. You can also do, let's say, true bearing. Once you have calculated your true bearing, let's assume this is B, this is your A. Of course, you have calculated your true bearing. You have got, let's say, you have got something like 260. Instead of writing 260 degrees, you just leave it as 260. It's wrong. Why? Because you did not write it correctly as 260 degrees, which is your true bearing. So you're supposed to make sure that you write the correct unit of measurement. Let's say you are calculating the magnetic declination. Obviously, magnetic declination, you're going to write your west of true north. If you just write 18 degrees 21 minutes, you leave it like that, 2 minutes, okay? You leave it like that, okay? 18 degrees, 2 minutes, you leave it like that. It's wrong. Why? Because you did not write west of true north, okay? If you are going to look for a mean magnetic declination, let's say you have got 21 minutes and you did not write westward, it's wrong. So you have to make sure that you write the correct unit of measurement. It's very important, whether you're calculating distance, whether you're calculating your gradient, whether you're calculating your VI of vertical exaggeration, which means if you say 5, it's 5 times, not just 5. So make sure that you write the correct unit of measurement. Make sure you write the correct unit of measurement. That's something else that you're supposed to include, so that it's a common mistake as far as Mapwork is concerned. Then another thing that you can also take note of is the wrong map interpretation. Wrong map interpretation. Of course, you are given that the reference that use an orthophoto map, use a topographical map. Of course, how do you interpret the map wrong? Why? It's either you are using the wrong map, or either you are not able to apply the correct concept. That's how you interpret the map in a wrong way. So, like for instance, let's say you are calculating maybe the drainage density. Obviously, drainage density, if you understand the concept, is the total length of streams per unit area. So the moment you know the concept is of drainage density, it becomes easier for you to interpret the question according to the requirements. Of course, you can be asked, of course, can you say, what can you say is the climate of this area that is given on the map? Obviously, the first thing that you look at is, do we have a lot of non-perennial rivers? Of course we have. Do you have a lot of perennial rivers? So this will help you to determine the climate of an area. If there is rainfall throughout the whole year, you know, okay, maybe this area receives rainfall, maybe seasonally. That is in what? Maybe during summer. You understand? So you are able, you make use of the information that is at your disposal. When you're looking at this map, you can see in this block there is higher drainage density, in this block there's lower drainage density. So you should be able to marry the concept that you have learned in other topics with what you have on your map. Here I'm applying geomorphology. I'm applying fluvial geomorphology. Obviously, I'm looking at my drainage density. I'm having the river there. I can talk about the concept of longitudinal profile of a river. I can be able to determine where my upper course is, where my middle course and my lower course is. So what we are saying that is, if you interpret the map in a wrong way, obviously you are bound to get the wrong answer. So you should be able to relate the concept that you have learned, be it atmospheric processes. You are going to look, there is a valley in the map. Obviously, think about during the day, think about your anabatic winds. Maybe during the night, think about your katabatic winds. Of course, invasion layer, all those things. You are applying that into the valley climates. Okay, you understand? Okay, that's part of microclimates, but you are applying to the map. So it becomes easier. If you know the concept, then you can interpret the question, the map correctly. So that's another challenge in as far as the common mistakes in mapping are concerned. You have got wrong map interpretation. Then wrong calculation. That's another thing that is common in as far as Mapwork is concerned. The wrong calculation. How do we do the wrong calculation? We do the wrong calculation. Why? Because maybe we do not understand the concept. Maybe we do not know the formula. That's how we end up doing the wrong calculation. If it's calculation of distance, you know, distance is equal to your map distance multiplied by the scale. That is your formula. If It's your area. How do you calculate it? Of course, they give you length times breadth, but it's your length times scale times breadth times scale. So the moment you know the formula, then it becomes easier for you to do the correct calculation. So you're supposed to practice just the way you practice maths. Practice your calculation, how to calculate your distance, how to calculate your area, how to calculate your gradient, how to calculate your vertical exaggeration, how to do your intervisibility, how to do your cross-section. Those things need practice. And the more you do not practice them, you are bound to do the wrong calculations. So you're supposed to make sure that you know the formulas. How do you interpret your gradient as well? How do you calculate your area? How do you calculate your distance? So another common mistake is wrong calculations. Then another one is poor comprehension of the concept, like what I've been saying just now. If you understand maybe some of the topics that you've covered, be it in grade 10 or grade 11, they can ask you a question that is to do with the pressure belts. You know, you've got your high pressure, you've got your low pressure, you've got your equatorial low at the equator, you've got subtropical high pressure. They can ask you, here you can see, it's 28 degrees south, close to which pressure system is this one? Okay, obviously, you know, it's your subtropical high. It's close to 28. You understand? So that's basically what I'm trying to say. So it's under atmospheric processes, but weather and climate, but it's a concept that can actually be assessed on Mapwork. So you're supposed to know that you apply. Remember, it's more application of concept. So you need to know how to actually you have to comprehend or to understand these different concepts from different topics. They can even ask you on this map, if you look at this map, where are we likely to have higher population density? Basically on this, it's under population in grade 10, but they're asking you about population density on this map. Obviously, you know that you are likely to have more people where we've got gentle slopes. It enables more agriculture to take place. It's easy to build in those areas. So hence you're likely to have a higher population density. What can be the other thing? Of course, it depends with the amount of resources that are within a city of an urban area, which means it attracts more people. We're likely to have more people there. You see how to also explore the concept of population density. So that's how you go about it. Of course, then you can also be assessed when you're looking at this. Of course, this is a river. They can ask you, this is a meander. Where is deposition taking place and where is erosion taking place? Identify the slip-off slope, identify the cut-off slope. They are using the map, but you are applying this concept that you have done under fluvial geomorphology. So you look at that, all that. So you are supposed to understand the different concepts from the different topics that you have covered, then you apply them when you are doing Mapwork. So another common mistake in Mapwork is poor comprehension of concept. Poor comprehension of concept. When you're looking at this, poor comprehension of concept, let me just put it that way. Then another one is failing to interpret the question requirements. What is the question requiring you to do? Are you supposed to do a calculation? Are you supposed to state the reason? Are you supposed to give an answer in form of a paragraph question with deeper explanation? So you're supposed to know, failing to interpret the question requirements. Are you supposed to state the reason? Give a reason why you say there is gentle gradient. Of course, maybe the contours are further apart, it's a flat land, something like that. Or maybe you are asked to comment whether this steep gradient is because maybe of the contours that are very close to each other, it's an escarpment, and so on and so on. So these are the common mistakes. I know they are more mistake than these ones, but I've just done a general mistakes that we have in as far as Mapwork is concerned. So I've talked about choosing the right map. You fail to choose the right map. You do your calculation using an orthophoto where you're supposed to use a topographical map. You do not use the correct unit of measurement. Obviously, you're bound to get the wrong answer. You do the wrong map interpretation, which means what is needed here is your comprehension of different concepts and their applicability in as far as Mapwork is concerned. How do you apply them when it comes to valley climates? How do you identify, of course, in terms of during the night, what will happen? Katabatic winds come to your mind. During the day, anabatic come to your minds. The issue of aspect, north-facing slope in the southern hemisphere are warmer than south-facing slope. You're supposed to know and apply all those concepts. So wrong calculations, obviously, you don't know the formula, you're bound not to get the correct answer. Poor comprehension of concept is also very important, that whatever you have done, be it in population, be it in geomorphology, try to apply. How do you identify a mesa on a map? How do you identify a conical hill? How do you identify a plateau? You are supposed to try and apply all those things. The concept of your basaltic plateaus, of your toes, of your mesas, your buttes, your conical hill, your pediments, and so on and so on. You're supposed to be able to apply those concepts. Then failing to interpret the question requirements, obviously you interpret it in the wrong way. You are not attentive to detail. So you have to take your time to make sure that you avoid these common mistakes. I know these are not only the common mistakes, there are more mistakes than this one, but these are the most common ones that you can avoid and make sure that you get your distinction in as far as Mapwork is concerned. Ta-da!